Hi all, let's explore something about sports. Sports is often a heard and used terminology. Have we ever thought about exploring the details of sports? What is sports? How it has evolved? And almost all about the W's of sports. According to Harold M. Barrow, sports is inclusive of all physical activities that has turned part of the culture of a society. Culture, as per sociologists, is defined as values, customs, traditions, etc., transferred from one generation to another. And sports, in that sense, is a culture which has been transferred throughout many generations, over from one generation to another. It is inclusive of all physical activities that has been transferred from generation after generation. So, whatever we see that has been transferred as part of a physical culture can be brought under the umbrella of sports. If you look into our tradition in Kerala, we can say Kalaripayattu is also a sport. And we should really know, and we must know, how it has explored out. There are many theories surrounding around sports. Some are of the opinion that it has evolved out of a preparation for warfare. Some others states that it is a natural instinct or a natural quality of every animal to attract the opposite sexes. And when it comes to human beings, sports is seen as a mean to attract the opposite sexes. And they have clearly stated how the fitness of a peacock, how it vibrates its feathers to show and prove its fitness before its opposite sex. And in that manner, they say that sports is a mean, it's a natural instinct, it's a natural selection that has been evolved to attract the opposite sexes. But one thing we can say is that sports really is an innate quality. It's a part of your life and living and everything. If you look at a baby, play is innate in him. Play has got many theories surrounding around it. One of it is the catharsis theory, which states that it is a mean to express out the pent-up emotions in a being. It is an opportunity for a human being to spell out or to bring out all his emotions, which if remained within him would have been dangerous. Just see or look at a very small baby who is not affected by the social stigmas or anything around it. It will be laughing, it will be crying, or it will be moving its body parts to express all the innate emotions within him or her. And that's the basic instinct, or that's the basic quality which sports also has in it. If you look at history, it is seen that the history of sports is surrounded around even during the Paleolithic years. There are wall paintings which clearly shows us that sports was there in existence during those period even. And if you look at the nature of many of our sports, we could see that these theories which are been rotating or surrounding around sports is being substantiated. Just look at a javelin throw. Just look at a wrestling. The Paleolithic paintings have clearly shown that wrestling was a very active sporting event during that period even. And there are traces of many such paintings seen in different parts of the world. We know that the existence of human being was spread out throughout the world. Only recently, by the invention of many transports, that we started communicating each other so closely. Even during a period when we were not having so much transportation or so much facilities for communicating between societies, even during that time, there existed sports in different parts of the world. And when communication and transportation became a common and became a very easily accessible means for every human being, societies started to communicate each other, started to interact each other very commonly than in the earlier period. Cultures started to be exchanged, and sports in different parts of the world in different forms got a common nature, got some common stature, and got some common rules and framework, and thus got the form which we nowadays call as games. And that's considered to be the evolution of games from the sports. And this is how the sports has evolved over the years. And in different parts of the world, there existed different types of sporting culture. When we come to the ancient Greece, where the warring city-states of Sparta and Athens fought among themselves throughout their ages. But the Olympics was a period where truce existed between these two warring city-states. And we know that during this period of the Olympics, there was no war, and people were easily able to travel between these two states with a very peaceful state of mind. Otherwise, throughout the ages, they will be fighting or warring among themselves. When it comes to Sparta, they had a very cruel or barbarian type of physical culture, where they believed that those who were born unfit or with deformities should not exist. They used to throw their babies who were born with deformities as food for vultures. And they believed that their women should be fit enough for producing or for giving them a better healthy offspring. But in the state of Athens, the situations were a bit more democratic, where they thought that or believed that the city should be a little more socialistic in their approach, and their approaches were in that sense. But still, they emphasized on the fitness level of their citizens. And when it came to the Olympics, these two city-states fought amongst themselves in many of the items. They had got competitions in wrestling. They had got competition called the stage race, or competition for sprinting or running. And this continued for over years. The ancient Olympics was able to propagate peace between these two warring city-states, at least for some duration. Over the years, of course, the game just came to an end. But when we look at the revival of this, actually the coming in of the modern Olympic Games, is also much owed to this want for peace or a very socially living harmonious life. We have all heard about Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the French businessman who is considered to be the father of modern Olympics. He was a French, and the infamous Franco-Prussian War. It was a war between the Germans and the French. And in that war, the French were badly defeated. And as we know, there was a movement in Germany called the Turnverein movement, started by Frederick Ludwig John, which has really contributed onto the general fitness of the people in Germany. And the Germans were considered to be superior in their fitness level. And the French, in this Franco-Prussian war defeat, were completely shed of their egos. They became ashamed of their lower fitness level. And this really affected the thoughts of this French businessman named Baron Pierre de Coubertin also. So he thought that war is never means to be promoted. It should be stopped and peace should be promoted. And that made Baron Pierre de Coubertin to go ahead with the Olympic movement. He just started collecting many friends along with him to just start a movement, the Olympic movement. And really, this modern Olympic movement should be considered as the real revolution in the area of sports in the world. It is this movement that has changed drastically the outlook of people throughout the world towards sports. Of course, people in the yesteryears really had a craze for sports, but actually only after the upcoming or incoming of the Olympic Games, it really got propagated. And in the year 1896, at Greece, in Athens, this game again got into existence. And this became a reality. And if we talk about the women category, we should say that they were really kept away from the Olympic Games until the year 1920. Even in the ancient Olympics also, women were not allowed to participate or were not even permitted to see the games. Because as we know that in the ancient Olympics, people were allowed to participate only without any dresses. They had to be nude. And so women were not at all permitted inside the stadium. And there are also instances where some females in disguise got into the stadium, and when the Greece came to know of this, they just killed these women who came in to see this event. And that was the gesture that the ancient Greece gave to sports for women. And when the modern edition started, the same tempo continued up to the year 1920. And this was a year which marked the change or the fate of women in this sporting event, or in overall sporting events. From there on, they also started participating. And over the years, we have seen that now women have become a very big strength as far as sports is concerned. Along with the change in culture, along with the change in approach towards women, along with everything, sports also contributed towards the upliftment or the change of the stature of women. and sports is seen in nowadays as a very big contributor towards the change in the quality of life of everyone. If you look at the fitness level, whether it be in the wandering 100 age of humans, it was naturally in the higher side. In the age of the survival of the fittest, it is believed that people lived over 150 years. Though the average lifespan is surrounding around 32 or 40 years, it is believed that those who survived for over 150 years or more. It's an indicator to everyone that those who were fit in those days lived a quality life even up to the age of 150 years. And that's the contribution of fitness and sports in those days, because they needed to be sporty, they needed to be active, they needed to be fit to live during those ages. Because we all know that in those days the threats were from natural calamities, the threats were from other animals, the threats were from even other human beings. So they needed to fight throughout, and they needed to fight for their life, they needed to fight for their living. And this was one of the reasons why sports has evolved. And in the modern day even, sports is contributing much and more towards a quality living. And it is this concept of sport, or this approach of sport by the society, which will be contributing towards the fitness or the general fitness of a society. If you look at the programs throughout the world, for example, in Canada, the state Canadian Lotto is something which contributes towards the funds for sports. Their programs are divided into two: sports for all and competitive sports. Of course, sports promotes competition as well as cooperation, and that's why sports was used even during the ages of the war, because we need to compete with our opponents, and we needed to cooperate with our teammates for a better result. And in that sense, sports contributed towards cooperation and competition. And so, seeing this importance, seeing the real validity of these programs, countries like Canada or even the French, it is believed that the average French contributes 35% of the GDP towards its fitness program, and only a state or country which contributes towards their fitness programs or their sporting programs will be having a really healthy culture and a healthy life. It's meaningless living for up to 80 years or 90 years without being able to walk or sit or sleep properly. It is meaningless to lead a life of longevity without it being so qualitative in nature. So, we needed to emphasize on the sports, and we need to emphasize on sports and sporting culture in the society to see that the whole of the society is being contributed in two ways, whether it be in the competitive way or in the cooperative way. The cooperative way we need to see that this is seen as a means to expel all our emotions, expel all our problems, expel all our stress, to see that the society is being leading a very qualitative life, and that's the real sense of life, and that's the real essence of sports, and that's the real essence of life too. And in that sense, let us see that everybody contributes and everybody gets into a sporting culture for the promotion of physical, mental and social health. Thank you.